is flawed.
Is this game political?
Hey, no.
No. Really?
No. Just make the game.
That seems insane.
No!
It seems insane to get political to me.
I've known for a long time now that there are a lot of people on the internet who aren't very nice, but I've only really investigated it on a surface level. A common place to find these people is in the comment sections and forums about video games. Some games more than others though. More specifically, games that feature themes based around identity politics or just politics they don't agree with. Sometimes it doesn't have to be about the politics or themes. There was a mass outrage among certain fans because of the character design of Abby from The Last of Us 2, where she was muscular. So muscular that some of these aforementioned not very nice people insisted that she was secretly a man. There's clearly some sort of disconnect between these people and reality. They argue that politics doesn't belong in their politics-free games about war and fighting. There's no reason for it. Those pesky SJWs keep trying to push their agenda onto us gamers. Just look at Battlefield 5. I want to come home from my busy day at work and be able to do some gaming. All these liberals force game developers to do whatever they're told. As one Quora post says, gamers are perfectly capable of maintaining suspension of disbelief. It's completely unrealistic that people will respawn and be perfectly fine after taking a tank round to the face, but it's all for the sake of enjoyment. However, if the issues are so glaringly obvious, then it will break the immersion of the game, and that's where people have a problem. In case you were wondering, this glaringly obvious immersion-breaking issue is the fact that you can play as a woman or a black man. You can still play as 100 other white dudes, including Steve Fisher, a man so white I'm certain he claps when the plane lands. Also, this isn't really important, but I want everyone to see Siegfried Albrich, the coolest man to ever exist. He has a sword called the Lionhead sword. He's the best. Where was I? Incels. Incels are able to ignore all the unrealistic aspects of the gameplay, but as soon as something as unimportant as having a black soldier comes up, it's seen as game breaking and immersion ruining. Later on in the same Quora post, Gary Zhang, noted full-time overthinker, states that, by far the biggest issue I have with the game is the woman. British women never saw hard combat in World War II. That is a fact. There we have it. My entire argument crumbling in my hands. How foolish was I to think I ever stood a chance? There were over 640,000 women in the armed forces, including the Women's Royal Naval Service, the Women's Auxiliary Air Force, and the Auxiliary Territorial Service, plus many more who flew unarmed aircraft, drove ambulances, served as nurses, and worked behind enemy lines in the European resistance in Special Operations Executive. Thanks, British government! To be fair, is this thing political is a question that can be interpreted in many different ways. And to their credit, the writers of Modern Warfare gave us a direct explanation of what they feel their game would have to be in order for it to be political.
I feel like for me to honestly say, if you wanted a situation where I would say that yes, it is a political story, I would have to be telling a story about specifically the exact administrations and governments and events in our world today. We are talking about thematic things. We would also have to have, I think, a perspective on it. And what we don't, we want to present the different perspectives. We don't want to say that one of them is correct.
So there it is. A straightforward definition of what it means to have a political story as to be talking about the exact administration and events that take place in our current world. This definition is absurd. Let's list some things that aren't political by this definition.
House of Cards, a non-political show about a politician who sets out on a quest to seek revenge on the people who betrayed him while successfully rising to supremacy. The West Wing, American President Josiah Bartlet and his administration tackle various political issues in order to maintain peace and harmony in the nation through non-political means. Mr. Smith goes to Washington. A naive non-political youth leader is appointed to fill a vacancy in the US Senate. His idealistic plans promptly collide with corruption at home and subterfuge from his hero in Washington, but he tries to forge ahead despite attacks on his character. 1984, a dystopian social science fiction novel and cautionary tale that definitely isn't political. Atlas Shrugged, a book set in a non-political dystopian United States in which private businesses suffer under increasingly burdensome laws and regulations. Animal Farm, a book that tells the story of a group of farm animals who rebel against their human farmer, hoping to create a society where the animals can be equal, happy and free from politics. Brave New World, a novel that examines a futuristic society that revolves around science and efficiency, where emotions and individuality are conditioned out of children at a young age, along with politics. Fahrenheit 451, a book that explores the struggle between man's desire for knowledge and individuality in a society that expects ignorance and conformity, and also it's not political.
By this definition, Jacob Minkoff has made the idea of political allegory completely impossible. There ain't no room for metaphors in this definition. Either you're saying Joe Biden told me to do this, or it ain't political. So, like any technological native before me, I decided to go to Google. Relating to the government or public affairs of a country. It's on a better track, but games like Bioshock 1 or Fallout New Vegas that are widely regarded as extremely political games wouldn't be political under this definition. I decided that the best way to define the word political would just be to ask people. I found some regular people from college and asked them to give me their definition of political. Over half the people I asked came up with something along the lines of things to do with the government, which isn't much better than Google, but hey, I guess some people just don't give a damn about politics. Nevertheless, pretty much all of the answers I were given helped me to understand what people view as political in some way. As a follow-up to this question, I decided to ask people to rank certain themes that are found in both political and political media. Transgender representation, terrorism, proxy wars, surveillance, ethnic representation, queer representation, and the military-industrial complex. 7 in total. Pretty simple. I want to see if these gamers are right. Identity politics is what's ruining video games. If anyone cares about wartime politics, if anyone cares about whether or not there are black people in video games. First place, terrorism. Not a huge surprise. All the participants live in a first world country that goes through terrorist attacks on a semi-regular basis. Second place, proxy wars. Again, two superpowers using their money to play a devastating game of chess where real people are the pawns. Doesn't seem ideal. In third, the military-industrial complex. Wait, this isn't identity politics. Terrorism, proxy wars, military-industrial complex, surveillance, ethnic representation, transgender representation, and queer representation. Gamers were wrong? Unanimously, every single person put ethnic, trans, and queer representation at the bottom of the list. As one respondent said, for my ranking, it's more split in half. 5, 6, and 7 aren't political at all, and all the ones above are political. 5, 6, and 7 here being ethnic, queer, and trans representation, respectively. There's obviously the cynical way of taking all this. It's all marketing language. They know that gamers are tired of having liberal politics forced into their games about imperialism. A quick glance at the comment sections on the interview with Minkoff confirms this. Hundreds of gamers celebrating the fact that this isn't a political video game. The cynical way to take it is that these writers don't actually care about what they're saying. Their publishers have told them to stay out of politics no matter what to keep their fan base happy. When I started this video, I knew there were two ways I could take it. I could explore what I have done in this video, or I could go down the rabbit hole of whether or not this is a performative act. You don't find anyone like this in real life, so why are there so many on the internet? Is it the anonymity that provides the security that they feel that they need to say these things? Maybe they're just trying to get attention. They don't believe in what they're saying, but hey, I mean, people talk to them now. These are all things that I could have done, but I chose not to. Instead, I focused on pointing out the hypocrisy of the claims that they're making. pointing out that they already find things political when it's politics they don't agree with. Going back on the things I have done, I think the survey was flawed. I didn't ask any of these gamers that have these views. I tried to, but then they found out that I wasn't who I said I was and didn't want to talk to me anymore. For the survey, I really did a control group and not actually go into these communities and see why they do what they do. Gamers were wrong?